Peace and love, everyone. Um, I am doing something a little different today. Um, of course, I'm going to still do a card read, but I wanted to share this channeled message that I had. Um, so I've been having dreams the past couple of nights, uh, and a lot of my dreams usually end up in some type of way of manifesting. So in these particular dreams, I felt like they were warning dreams, right? Like that were showing that something was coming, like something is on the way. And every time I've had these dreams, um, my ancestors guide me and I listen to what it is that they're trying to communicate with me. Um, whew. So for my hometown, I know that there's been like a lot of heavy energy there. And over the past couple of weeks, we've had a lot of losses, especially with the youth. Um, and I do feel like that right now, a lot of people are being called in that place of stepping up, right, in that warrior energy, which we talked about with the Aries, because we have like 5 planets in Aries right now. There was 6 in Aries. So that energy drives people. And sometimes there may have to be things that are lost in order for people to kind of get up and shift, right? Um, so in this situation, I feel like it's a lot of people that's being called to get up to create some type of change to protect the next generation or to protect, the youth, the children. That's been like the timeline that I've been picking up on over the past couple of weeks. And that's one of the things that inspired me to create the curriculum that I'm currently working on, which is a decision making curriculum for teenagers and young adults. Because we have some type of disconnect when our children become teenagers, when they become young adults, right? Like a lot of people don't really want to work with that age group. A lot of people love the babies. I love the babies. I love working with teenagers. I've tried to counsel a few of them throughout the years and help guide them with making better decisions and life choices. Um, so, that's my thing. Hey, hey, Wuti is mother warrior spirit. And so I'm an advocate for the youth and whatever is necessary to help the youth move forward and, not have as many traumas as we did. Uh, and that also comes with our communities making sure that we as adults heal properly. Um, I recently took a trauma insight course so that I could become certified in that area. And it made me look at a lot of the things that was going on in our community, directly in the Black community, and look at, I know we deal with a lot of trauma, right? But just really look at and break down the different things that create trauma in our households, in our bloodline, and how do we heal from that. And seeing that we are bringing so many children into households that are not healed, that are not balanced, that is also creating trauma on the children, right? So, my whole thing has been, y'all know I'm currently working in the community, and my thing is it takes a village to restore the village. So it takes each and every one of us to be able to step up and do something that is going to make sure that our communities are safe, that we're healing, not just doing something that is charity, but doing something that is actually going to break generational curses, especially for us as Black people, because we have endured a lot. But when I was taking the course, it really opened my eyes up to more, even when I'm dealing with adults. And I do a lot of readings, and I still guide people spiritually, and we do work, right, breathing methods, and we do things to help people to channel their chakras and heal their chakra centers, because if those are damaged, then we have nervous issues that when our nervous system is not healed, we don't operate and function in a healthy way, right? Like sometimes we're in fight or flight mode, sometimes we're self-sabotaging ourselves or our life because our nervous system doesn't feel safe due to the traumas that we've endured, due to the traumas that our ancestors have endured. And so I think that work has to be done a lot more for us and just on us in our communities. So I do see, like I said, a lot of people right now that are stepping up in the community, and I think that's necessary. But I also think that it's urgent that our community does something as far as protection work. I know a lot of people are like skeptical about spirituality. Like that's a topic that a lot of times we run from, right? Because we feel like it's this spooky thing, or like it's witchcraft. And it's like, the truth is, our communities are up under witchcraft. They're up under a spell, right? And so a lot of times we need to combat spiritually as well, right? It doesn't hurt to learn about spirituality and African spirituality, but I think a lot of people see it, and because we have this disconnect from Africa or a disconnect from our identity, we just automatically look at this as, oh, we shouldn't be participating in this, or oh, this is evil. And it's like, it's urgent that we connect back with our roots and back to our ancestors, because right now we are in a time where we need to be able to apply that the things that our ancestors did to liberate them, and we can't do that disconnecting from them, right? Because those are our spirit guides, those are our ancestors. Part of our culture is that they've always been around to communicate with us and to help to guide us and protect us. And so when we're not using that in a place where Europeans are doing witchcraft on us, that's what the Freemasons and stuff like that are doing. When they're doing it on us and we're getting sentences and stuff like that in the court, and they're like, oh, you're getting 3 lifetimes. Basically, they're saying you're going to reincarnate 3 times. And in those 3 times that you reincarnate you're going to be property of them. So they're doing witchcraft and spells to bind your soul to keep repeating that cycle, right? And a lot of people don't know that because they're in a state of being asleep. Some people may know, like, hey, I feel like my life is in a loop, or something is, I need to be doing something, but they're not quite sure. And a lot of people, they see racism on just a schedule, on a system of like, people just hate us. Like they just angry at us because we're black, or they hate black. But racism is also something that is systemic, and it is also something that is spiritual that's taking place. And so we do need to be conscious of that so that we can handle the spiritual aspect and be able to operate a lot better. Because in our culture, we did have people who could heal through using the herbs, and like my great grandmama, she was a whisperer, so my great grandmama could whisper sickness out of the body. You know what I'm saying? So it's like my great grandmama was doing some stuff. They had a story where they told us that one time when it was my great grandmama, she had this white guy that had purchased her, had her have children and stuff by him, and they said he left her because he had a white woman as well, right? So we have like some white cousins in the line somewhere, but these are cousins that come from rape, right? So our family don't look at them and be like, hey, yeah, we want to mingle with y'all. Y'all granddaddy was like a rapist, and he like owned my great grandmama. You feel me? So we don't look at them and be like, hey, like, yeah, let's forgive this shit. Like, no, y'all need to go on, because they practice like this sick, twisted culture and then try to normalize it with us. So yeah, so like she used to, they said when he abandoned her that she did something, and this was a power of hers, but that the KKK came and threatened him and told him, if you don't go back and take care of your wife and children, we're going to kill you. Now, you know, you got to have some strong stuff to make a Klans member be ready to go to war with another Klans member over a black person, right? So, and even to a point of threatening his life, to take his life for a black person, right? So it was just kind of like what's that type of stuff my great granny had? I might, but anyways, just sharing that from my bloodline's story, because those things, our ancestors was doing some things that was keeping them protected and doing things for justice, doing things to protect them from what we're dealing with today. And we have been really detached, right? Because now we're not on the same frequency as the vibrations of our ancestors, because we're not speaking their language, right? Like, and it does affect our brain. Like, if we're speaking English, if we're using one side of the brain, if we're speaking Swahili or we're speaking Maduni Tir or something like that, it's going to activate the other side of the brain, right? And that matters because one side of the brain deals with certain things like logic, or whatever, and the other side of the brain deals with creativity, spirituality, and stuff like that. So the brains have become imbalanced because we're colonized, and now we're using their spells, we're using their words a lot, and we're not trying to learn anything to get out of that. And a lot of that comes from the divide that's coming from this culture that we're not the same as Africans. We're not connected to Africa. And it's like, that is, I believe, some type of propaganda that's being pushed into the black community, especially through social media and the times of social media now, to really disconnect our communities, right? And so I do think it's important for us, and I just want to encourage people to learn more about that. I used to have classes, right? And I've been thinking about starting the classes back up, but it's just kind of like how and when and the what classes I want to do, right? Because I used to have like sister circles at my apartment, and we'd be up under the full moon, writing out affirmations, meditating, doing yoga together. We would affirm each other, play our music, pour our libations to the ancestors. So we kind of had a thing going. And I wanted to rebuild that, right? I'm in Texas now, but I do want to redo that. But the other thing is, a lot of our people get into spirituality and then they abuse it. So that's been the thing, is like, where do I start there, right? Because a lot of people get into spirituality and we stay in this low vibration of doing spells on each other, right? Like, it's still a low vibration. Like, I'm not saying that if someone has wronged you, you can't go to your ancestors and ask for justice. I'm not saying that you can't go ask for judgment, because I do that, right? Like, I do defensive work, but in case And sometimes I have had to go to war, right? Like if I have a client that comes to me, or I've had clients that have came to me, or even comrades that have come to me with situations. Had somebody that their child got murdered, right? Somebody took their child and murdered them, and so um, I had to get my hands dirty in the spiritual realm, right? That's something that I have to deal with and answer for with however I handled that. But sometimes it happens. I try to do light work as much as possible, but in a situation when it's dealing with children being harmed or being killed, you know, we handle that however needs to be handled. So most of the time, I think the issue is I've come across people in spirituality who have abused it, and they want to punish people. They want to use their powers to punish people. Oh, so and so made me angry. I'm going to punish you. Oh, such and such, and it's not my eye, right? Like when we're cursing people, because we can be bringing things back to us. We can be hurting people a lot more. And then the thing is, like, we have an issue of doing it so much on our communities that we're not doing it on the actual people who are oppressing us. And this has become my issue with the spiritual community, because we are all these people who so fire at their spiritual powers, but it's not being guided correctly. And that's the same thing mentally, verbally, and physically in our communities. You know what I'm saying? They're not separate, because mentally we compete with each other or do things that we don't like Black people for whatever reason. We don't look at them as people who we should be honoring, protecting, and respecting. And we should be looking at each other in that way. And then, secondly, when it's verbally, when we're talking to each other, sometimes in our communities, we use derogatory terms towards each other, or we tear each other down. You know what I'm saying? Verbally. And one of the laws of my eye is that I will not hurt people with my words. And so that's out of order. That's working against our ancestors, because they've already laid down a spiritual foundation for us of how to use spirituality. And so even with the community, when we dealing with certain situations, we become violent towards each other. And that's the physical part of us at warfare. So we are at warfare with each other, spiritually, mentally, physically, verbally. We do these things, and there's a lot of violence with partners not respecting each other and abusing each other. We have this men and women thing in a community where men are just objectifying women, or they're just sexual objects to them, or they just, smash a bunch of women and they are loose with their sexuality, and then use, polygamy was a thing, and they're doing it incorrectly. They're just using that to abuse their sexuality. They're not protecting the women and providing for the women. You know what I'm saying? And that's not the point of polygamy. So people are using that incorrectly, way incorrectly, and it's just disrupting balances in the households. It's creating some toxic connections. Now they're doing it for orgies and threesomes and stuff, and this is taking away from the dignity and the God self that our ancestors had. Even with the gods or any of the kings and queens that were polygamous, their operations were not what we doing over here in America. What we doing over here in America is a violence towards, we are, even sexually, we are violent towards each other, right? Like, we don't know how to actually honor the God in somebody else. And each of us have that God in us because our ancestors were gods, right? So we are just the baby gods. We are the ones that they put here on the earth to be able to manifest and create and to help to protect this planet, right? They sent us here to do that and to be guardians of the earth. But a lot of us don't even care about earth now. A lot of us are violent towards ourselves. We smoking cigarettes all the time, and we polluting our body with all type of drugs and stuff like that. So then that's another crime because now we're hurting ourselves, we're polluting ourselves, right? So we're not just being violent towards each other, whether it's domestically, whether it's in the community, whether it's violence on children, violence on elders, violence on disabled people. We're not only doing that, but we're also being violent towards our own bodies. And it's like, how do we stop that? And the best way to do that is by us going back to Ma'at, like us going back to Ma'at and Ma'at, because Ma'at is Ma'at's counterpart. And a lot of people don't talk about that because a lot of people don't really study Medu Neter. A lot of people get into spirituality and they just hear from somebody conscious. Even with that in America, like, I don't know why. I don't know if that came from like a feminist thing or what, but they just hype up the Ma'at thing, right? And then I learned from real scholars who's been over there, who study this, who teach this for a living, that there is a masculine counterpart that is Ma'at. And he is the Entoro of integrity. He is the Entoro of truth and the Entoro of order. And so when we cross over, we not only have to cross over to get our hearts weighed on the scale of Ma'at and go through that judgment of Ma'at, but we also have to go through, after we go through her, the Divine Mother, we have to go through the Divine Father, right? And why this is important is because so many people over here, even in our culture, because it's an imbalance, we don't think that we need men. But you can't tell that to the Entoro, because the Entoro has balance, right? Every deity in Kemet, the ancient deities, we ain't talking about the new babies, right? Because they're the new babies. They are the new babies. The ancient deities that were gods, they had balance. So there's 2 suns, there's 2 moons, there's 2 of everything, right? Every tree on this planet, they reproduce. You got a masculine and a feminine. Every plant, every animal that's still alive on this planet, it has a masculine and a feminine, right? So we, a lot of times, are operating in our lower selves, right? Not our highest consciousness. We're operating in our flesh. We're operating in that survival space. We're operating in these lower chakras, but we're not healing like the heart. We're not making sure it's balanced. We're not healing these parts here, because these parts here should be guiding us to have balance, right? Because we have a masculine and a feminine side of the brain. But when we have households that are not balanced, it is creating an imbalance. Even it just continues to pass down an imbalance. And how we resolve that or fix that is by going back into our culture and saying, okay, how do I create this balance? How do I get this back here? Because that's what's going to bring order into our lives. That is what's going to bring that what's needed into our lives, right? So we do have to pass through, because you have a Ra, you have a Ra'at, you have a Amun, you have a Amunet, right? Like every single one of these deities, there's a feminine and a masculine. You have Sekhmet and you have Sekhem, right? So they all have to have a balance. Each of us who have those spiritual parents, we have a mother and a father, right? Sometimes you have multiple deities that are working with you to guide you. So some people have multiple spiritual parents. It just depends on what they sent you here to do and fulfill on planet Earth. So I don't know if I explained this to y'all or if I explained this to a client, but I know I said it the other day. And I was talking about when we incarnate, basically, each of us have deities we are already assigned to before we incarnate here to Earth. And these parents have already gave us our mission, our lessons, and all of these things before we come here. And the thing is, we're supposed to come here not to necessarily just learn lessons, right? but we're supposed to be coming here so that we can clear out whatever karma and things that we need to clear out, fulfill our purpose, because we're taught we have three purposes. So you have an individual purpose, you have an ancestral purpose, and you have a universal purpose, right? So we're connected with the gods. That means that, yes, each of us have a universal purpose because gods are able to operate at a large scale, right? They're able to actually amplify whatever connection is that they have with that deity. So for me, my deity that I work with the most is Mayat. So when I'm in alignment with Mayat and I'm doing what I'm supposed to, that deity works with me and it amplifies everything in my life. So if my thing is that my job is to come over here and harmonize this space, I can come over here and use that deity, and that deity will either channel and communicate with me what I need to do, because ancestral communication is real. And a lot of people think that the deities are just, some people will tell you that the deities are just a part of us as a story or a concept. But then you have people who've actually really studied this stuff and they actually work with this stuff and communicate with these deities, and they've actually communicated with the deities. And the only people who can actually communicate with the deities are the people who are the bloodline of the deities. So you have a bunch of people who come in, like white people and stuff like that, to try to tell you they got the unks on them. You see them wearing the unks, and in reality, an unk is supposed to be gifted to us, right? Like you have to be chosen to be able to carry that. But here it's become a trend because we're in America. Spirituality is so trendy. Oh, everybody got to get sage. Everybody don't even know what to do with sage. But it's become a trend, right? So we have people who want to rock the unk and stuff like that. And I have earrings and stuff like that. But I was actually gifted with the unk the same way I was gifted with the tarot cards. And it's just different when you are gifted. When somebody comes across your path, or you have an elder that comes to you and they're like, this is for you, right? Like this deck that I got in the store the other day, and the woman gave it to me, and she was like, this is you. And y'all know me, like I'm a revolutionary at heart, so this deck just aligned with me. But your ancestors, when you are aligned with what it is that they're calling you to do, they'll give you what you need to move forward. And so sometimes the blockages that's in our life is because we're not in alignment. We're not doing something that we've been called to do. And a lot of people just don't understand that, So I wanted to just kind of share that. I know that's that I don't know, like if that's a lot to take in, because y'all know I can kind of talk all day, and I used to have like classes, like virtual classes and stuff, but I'm just trying to figure out where to come in with those classes and do it correctly, because there has to be some type of guide, right? When we talking about spirituality, like so many people want to get into manifesting, or so many people hit me up and they like, how can I get this man back? Or how can I, my ex is doing this and I just want to do a revenge spell. And I have clients who feel that way, but that's something that needs to be healed internally, because you don't know how protected that person is. If you go and do that, you don't know the repercussions. You feel what I'm saying? And we just want to make sure that we are not doing things with spirituality to abuse the spiritual realm. You feel me? Because even when you petitioning things over, them ancestors that you taking it over to, they're gonna judge it. And even though some people are just working with like the baby ancestors, which is like their direct bloodline, that those direct bloodlines, those baby ancestors, the new ancestors, the grandparents, the great-grandparents, the great-great-great-great-grandparents ain't got nothing on the deity. Because the deity will run through a whole bloodline, is what I'm trying to tell you. Sekhmet literally killed hundreds of men. Those deities will run through a bloodline if they need to, and then take you. So you don't want to play with people who may be protected by deities, covered by deities. That's something that I've just learned through wisdom and guidance from elders, is even with priestess, you don't want to disrespect each other, because it can come out in a bad way. And so when people wrong me, I just let them go. I don't People be like, no, you gotta address this, you gotta argue in this, but people don't understand. I deal with deities, so I don't have to do that, because when people do something wrong to me, the deities will make them pay for it. I can tell you as a witness, okay? All I gotta do is sit back and be like, okay, because I know that I'm operating in the function of whatever the deity is calling me to operate in. So I know that when somebody does something across me, the deity is gonna do something to them. That's how protected I am. Is I can just sit over here as a priestess and be like, okay, and I don't have to fight as much as somebody physically might have to stand up for what they're doing, because you can't. That's like going against God. You going against the En Toro, and I'm a Hemat En Toro, so I'm connected to an En Toro, and that's like going against the actual deity itself, because those children of those deities should be functioning and should be operating in the work of the deity, right? Now, I do work with other deities, but sometimes I even have to have elders that be like, oh, just not fix it, go back to Mayat, like whatever you need to do to work it back to Mayat. And that's what we're taught. If there is something that we are doing that's incorrect, we need to make the correct action to work back towards turning it back into Mayat, right? Hey, how are you? You want to come give me a hug? Come on. Grand Rising. Mwah. Justice's birthday is going to be this Saturday. So, yay, she's turning 4. You sleep good? Yeah, that's good. Mommy's going to finish this reading, okay? Or you want to sit up here with me? Okay, come on. So basically, it's just, like I said, one of those things. She still got her sleepy face, y'all. It's one of those things where we have to be able to guide ourselves back to Mayat. So in the case of people who are in this place in Aries energy right now, I just wanted to say that, like, with everything that's going on, use that as a compass, use that as a guide to guide you. That's what's going to be needed, because it's a lot of stuff that's taking place right now. Also, as far as my dream, this is what I wanted to share, because sis will get over here and start preaching. As far as my dream with the warning of something is coming, I know, like I said, we are it's a lot of shifts taking place in our communities, right? Where it's calling and it's a need for people to kind of stand up into their purpose. But there's this virus that's supposed to be spreading really bad, and it's a deadly virus. And when this dream was giving me warnings and I saw this, it made me wonder, is this what it is? Because usually when something is going to happen, I see it, right? When COVID came, right before it came, I remember I was at my dad's house and I was staying there. I was staying there for a few nights or a couple of weeks. And I remember having this dream, and I was in Asia, and I was with this man who was my husband, right? And we had like this really nice space. It's crazy. In this dream, I was an empress, so of course my husband was an emperor. But there was this tragedy that had taken place that I could see. And it's like I had went up into the room. I looked out the window, and it was like something had hit the city or whatever, like, and it was taking people's lives. And it was just kind of like, what is this? Um, and it was showing that we was going to have to like flee because a lot of people was having to leave because it was so bad. Then a week later, that's when COVID started showing up on the media, and they were like, "Hey, in China, there's this thing, is and there's a lot of people dying, and this, and that," and it made me think about that dream. So, in this situation, I've been having that the past 2 nights, right? And I've also been using this black sage a lot. And in black sage, it does that like in your dreams. It reveals a lot of things. So I'm probably receiving like some extra downloads because I said I was going to burn this for 7 days straight after the full moon and just do like a deep cleanse because black sage helps with introspect, going back in, and just things like that. It basically does help with like shadow work and things. Um, it banishes negative energy and bad energy. It wards that off. So I just kind of been letting it do what it does. But that could intensify the dreams, but at the same time it was a warning dream. And then last night I got up and also had I couldn't go back to sleep because it was like something was just unsettling my energy, right? And it's a lot going on energetically. And then the other thing is spirits come to me a lot, right? Like, and communicate with me. So I have to make sure I have to make sure I'm cleansing and make sure that I'm grounding a lot. Um, just because it's a lot going on, and one of the elders was telling me, like, because my powers was growing, she was like, yeah, when your family and stuff are crossing over, they're going to come to you because you're a medium and they know that you can pick them up, like they know that you can sense their energy. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So it's overwhelming because there's been so much violence and things back home. And I just had 2 family members, one that crossed over in between the time last month that my cousin and my brother crossed over. So that week was really a lot for me. And then recently just had a baby cousin that has transitioned. And so that energy is a little heavy, and I'm trying to like process that. So I am taking a day from work today. I was supposed to have a class this morning, and I just canceled it so I can kind of cleanse myself because I've had a lot of people in my energy this week. A lot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like dealing with other people's things and stuff like that. And as a priestess, I know I need to just make sure that I'm practicing some good spiritual hygiene. So I do need to take today to kind of cleanse myself. And I've been doing that. Like I've been cleansing and stuff the past couple of days, but I've also been getting a lot of people in my energy with their stuff while I'm trying to do that. So I think the best thing for me is to just maybe take a break from my phone for a minute, so that I don't make it a habit to just answer everybody every time people call. Probably put it on do not disturb, and I'm just gonna go take me some time out in nature today. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And since I done made this message so long, I don't think that I'm gonna do like a reading. I think that was my channel message that I needed to share. And with this new thing that's coming, I just wanted to advise people to kind of be aware of what's going on. Up your spiritual protection right now in these next few months because it's going to be needed, right? Like wear you some stones and stuff that wards off bad energy, negative energy. It's going to be needed. Make sure that you're grounding. Make sure y'all connecting with some water during this fiery time to kind of balance it out. But also don't run from the fire. You feel me? Like this fire is supposed to push us into a direction where we are fighting more and getting in that warrior energy more. But to also have a little balance with it so that we're not fighting with each other, That's the thing that we have to be kind of conscious about. So using and balancing out that fire and that water, that's what we gotta do. Okay. So I gotta go. My baby done got up and I need to tend to her. And y'all have a wonderful day. Peace, love, and light.